On our latest episode, it's our fall movie preview as Josh Peterson, Rob McCallum, and I talk the best movies to see in the next 4 months. And with our thoughts on the Star Wars Episode 9 directorial change and ask if it's truly safe to helm a film in the Star Wars universe. We also decide who is best to handle the 007 films going forward, another hit song from Plasma Z, and Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast gives us a quick update on what to look forward to in week 1 of the NFL season. It's an illegal formation full of podcasting penalties we have for you today as we reach our next stop, the PCC Multiverse.
Then there's this ice dragon. It's kind of hates ice walls, and it wrecked the whole thing. And then Jon Snow showed Daenerys his ice dragon, if you know what I mean. And then Tyrion was watching, and it was all kinds of stuff, man. You missed it. You need to watch it.
And what happened at the very end?
There was a
the wall came down.
What's up? Yeah.
What happened after the wall came down?
There was a giant ice wall. I don't know. Like this big wall has been prevalent through the entire series. I know you're one person in the world that doesn't watch Game of Thrones. So yeah, this ice wall scattered and supposed to keep the White Walkers out. Now the White Walkers are in, and we don't know what the frick is going on until 2019 or so, they say. So it's just that's a long time to be on the edge of your seat, you know.
But after the wall went down, what came through?
Just a bunch of dead people.
So in essence, the Game of Thrones has now become an episode of The Walking Dead.
Yes. I mean, if you want to put it that way. Or has The Walking Dead always been a prequel to the Game of Thrones? We don't know. You know, it's just or a sequel maybe.
There you go. It's there. The connection has been made, and the conspiracy theories can start now. That's awesome indeed. Oh, hey everyone. And we're back for another episode of the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford from Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. And yes, I have seen and binged through year number 7, season 7 of the Game of Thrones this past week. So yes, I am caught up to date. So sorry about that. I just wanted to get that in a little bit there for all you fans out there. And who should be here with me in the PCC Multiverse but my good friend. He's the man, the myth, the legend. He is truly the White Walker King of Humanican Media. Is Josh Peterson. What's up, my friend?
Man, I wish I could have a White Walker dragon.
There you go, with all the holes in the wings and all that I saw. Yeah, to make it look extra dead.
Plenty of physics there. They clearly abide by the rules of physics in that universe.
Of course they do. So what's going on with all the great things going on at Humanican Media?
Just the usual, man. You guys know the spiel. There wasn't, I don't know, we didn't do a Super BS this week, so you might not get that, but there will be new Inside Sports, new Topicocalypse, Attack of the Humanicans. Yeah, I think that's all we got in the pipeline right now. Been a busy week.
It sounds like it. It just by in your voice or whatever's left of it, because I know you've been going through a lot of podcasts lately. And to check out all of his good stuff, check it out. Humanican Media on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Podbean, podcast.com, and iTunes, aka Apple Podcasts. Well, we've got a great episode. Like I said, we just tell you, just loaded, packed full of stuff. A lot of great movies because it's our fall movie preview. Rob McCallum and I are going to be talking a little bit later on about some of the movies. And then right now, here in a minute, we're going to be talking about with me and Josh on some of the great films that we're looking forward to as well coming in the next 4 months. Plus also as well, Rob and I are going to talk the Star Wars Episode 9 directorial change. Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast is going to give you some quick tips for your fantasy roster for week 1. And then also we've got another great conversation. We're also going to speculate as well the future for the 007 films as well, and another great song from Plasma Z. So we'll first start off, like I said, with our fall movie preview. And what better way to start with the man, the myth, the legend himself, Josh Peterson. Josh, I know there's some movies that you're targeting, including the first big movie of the fall season coming out this week in It. Is that correct?
Right. Yeah. I'm excited because I've been reading the book, and I've never read the book before, but it's a big old thick. It's like a Bible, but yeah, it's actually probably not the best comparison to make for something like It. But it's the book is good. I'm hearing good things about the movie, and a lot of people, I've been trying to stay away from reviews, but I've read a lot of headlines that said it's absolutely terrifying. And from what I understand, the director took a lot of the things out that made the 1980s version seem sort of cheesy when you look back on it now. And it's got a great cast, like the kid from Stranger Things is in it, and it seems like all the characters kind of they carry themselves well for something like that.
The Losers Club is back and in full force. Is that correct?
Yeah, they're back, and from what I can tell, all the characters look just like they do in the books. And we're in an era now where these types of movies and TV shows are making a comeback. We had J.J. Abrams' Super 8, it's Stranger Things, like the nostalgia flicks. People like them, and it's kind of nice to go back and revisit that world and kind of see it with a new twist on it. It's kind of like, I guess I'm imagining it being like E.T. in a way, but more terrifying. And I don't know if you could tell, people are already playing It pranks on people by hiding in sewers and stuff. I've been seeing a lot of videos on that. What are your thoughts on it, though?
Well, outside of the red balloons being tied to the sewers as well, I want to tell you what, it's just nice to see people highly anticipating movies such as It. In fact, for anything at all, after such a dreary August, one of the worst movie months on record, at least in the modern era, at least this century, as far as the previous weekends are concerned, that literally it could be on pace to actually, now get this, could actually combine for more money by itself than the top 10 films of both last week and then also as well the previous weekend prior. So if it does that, I mean, I'll tell you what, that's truly an incredible feat, because that's just telling you about how bad August was and how good the fall movie slate is going forward. So we've got a lot of great movies to talk about, but I'll tell you what, is scaring a lot of people. And like a lot of people, I don't like that clown action myself. So, but it definitely looks like something that Stephen King himself is really proud of. And in fact, that it is, and Pennywise is coming back on the screen real soon for audiences.
Right. Yeah. And Stephen King's kind of on a hot streak with all of his content being made into movies now. Hopefully, I know we've talked about this before. Hopefully they're able to remedy The Dark Tower. Okay, so here's my next one. It's where was it? It is Brad's Status with Ben Stiller. I don't know. Have you seen any trailers for this one?
Yes, I did see it. As I spoke to you before the podcast, I did see it, but I had a little bit of leaning for another one of the films that got a lot of buzz for him, and also as well Adam Sandler primarily. I've got to get the name. I think it's the Berkowitz Stories. I might be incorrect on that, but I'll take a look at that. Look it up just to make sure. But definitely, I did see Brad's Status as far as that trailer coming out. And it looks pretty good as well. It could be another one of those solid movies that Ben Stiller every now and then makes when he's not going off the wall in some comedy that may or may not appease to audiences.
Well, if you notice, Ben Stiller hasn't done a lot. He hasn't done many of those movies in a long time. Like, I think Zoolander 2 was his last kind of off the wall flick, but for the most part, he's been doing a lot of movies that are toned down in ridiculousness, and they're more take place in the real world and kind of have life lessons behind them, which is nice because you can kind of see he's maturing as an actor. You know, it's taken him a while, but you know, with Brad's status, it's kind of that whole thing where it's a mixture of a coming of age story, but at a different age in life. So he kind of sees all this stuff. His son's going to college, and he looks back, kind of wondering what he's done and what, you know, knowing what all the people he knows has done, and wanting his son to have something different. That's kind of, I feel like, a more relatable type of film than a lot of the stuff that's released nowadays.
And it's the Meyerowitz stories. That's the Meyerowitz stories is going to come out, I believe, also at the tail end of 2017. And that's the one at Cannes that got a whole bunch of raves as well. So definitely looking forward to Brad's status and also the Meyerowitz stories as well. What other films, you know, do you see stick out to you as far as something that people shouldn't be missing this fall season?
Okay, the last one I'm pretty excited about. I know Rob has talked a lot about a lot of the ones that I wanted to see. Hold on one sec. Sorry. Stop. Hey. Sorry, dog. Yeah, I know Rob has talked a lot about the ones I've been excited about, but I do want to talk about Star Wars: The Last Jedi. Yeah, I know we've been waiting a long time for this movie, and they, you know, I know the toys have kind of put some spoilers out there, but I think that there's still enough of this movie that remains a mystery to us, that we've got a lot of exciting things planned. And, you know, as to who the Last Jedi is, what's going on with, what's his name, Kylo Ren, what's going on with the Poe Dameron and, you know, John Boyega's character. You know, this is where everyone's curious about how what's going to happen to Princess Leia in this. How are they going to end her story, or are they going to end it, or are they just going to have her, you know, floating off on the Millennium Falcon like they did in Fast and the Furious? It's kind of a mystery to us right now, but I think that might be like one of the biggest movies of the year, and I think a lot of people are super excited about it. And I know I've been looking forward to it, so hopefully it doesn't disappoint. I know Rogue One was an incredibly great movie, but yeah, we all just want to know what happened to Luke Skywalker, and I think that's been the lingering question ever since Return of the Jedi came out, and now we finally get our answers to that.
Well, Rian Johnson just said in an interview this week that The Last Jedi is, for all intents and purposes, Luke Skywalker. So it has been confirmed that he is considered the Last Jedi. So I don't know what that leaves Daisy Ridley or anyone else down the line.
Well, I think there's going to be like a rebirth. You know, he's the last of the old Jedi or whatever. You know, there's something. Because you know, Daisy Ridley's obviously going to do something great.
Yeah, absolutely, indeed. I think it's like you. It's obviously gearing itself towards that, and definitely going to be gearing towards itself that either you know, the latter part of 8 or whatever happens in 9. Well, there's a lot happening in 9 this week with the directorial change, and Rob and I will be talking about that later this hour, so stay tuned for that. But definitely Star Wars: The Last Jedi could by all intents and purposes be the #1 film by the end of its run. That, you know, as far as this year for 2017, it could actually garner over $1 billion by the end of the year. That's a possibility of happening as well. So definitely looking forward to that one. What I've got as far as some of the movies that I'm interested in seeing, Justice League, for obvious reasons, because, you know, the DC has been all over the place, on our good side, on our bad side, indifferent side, doing all the things that, well, DC and Warner Brothers does, which may not always make sense, but at least they're, you know, they make for some interesting times. So I'd like to see how the goodwill of Wonder Woman gets parlayed into the Justice League. I know there has been reshoots done by Joss Whedon from Zack Snyder's original vision. So I'm interested to see what exactly is now done to make it maybe hopefully a better film in that sense. So definitely looking forward to Justice League and seeing how that fits within the parameters of the DC extended universe. Coco, I mean, I really want to see, this is kind of an off the beaten path type deal for Pixar, which pretty much has carte blanche on where they can go within the Disney universe. So I'm really excited to see where they go with Coco and how they deal with the Mexican culture, the Mexican history, and the Hispanic culture and history. Overall, I'm definitely interested to see how they possibly will portray that, especially in light of all that's happened over the past recent months in regards to Mexican and Hispanic culture. But we won't go into that. Just like I said, I'm just interested to see how Coco will not only look on screen, but also will be able to tell a great narrative and be able to educate and also enlighten everyone about Hispanic culture and heritage, and hopefully that will be able to do one and the same as well. And last but not least, it's a George Clooney film, but it's a George Clooney directed film as he directs his good friend Matt Damon in Suburbicon. And I know you've seen the trailers, my friend. You've seen Matt Damon in the 50s in those beautiful 1950s picket fence homes and whatnot, dealing with the mafia, and suddenly becoming a man, a normal, average, everyday man in the 50s, coming to life as far as something else and having to defend his family in a I guess a violent way, as far as a far different way than one would expect in the 1950s suburbia. So I ask you, are any of these films piquing your interest as far as Suburbicon, Justice League, or Coco?
Honestly, I think I'm excited about Justice League. I know there's been a lot of talk about it, but there hasn't been, with the reshoots and all that. And I think that I think the movie's in good hands. I don't necessarily believe that it's as bad as everyone is saying it was, just because there are reshoots. Remember what happened with Gareth Edwards with Star Wars Rogue One? Everyone was like, "Oh, they're doing
World War Z." That's another one.
Yeah, and they're because that was a great movie. Everyone's like, "Oh, they're doing reshoots. The movie must have been bad," but I don't think that's always the case. I think there's just little tiny things they need to go back and fix after they look at it in post production. But I think it looks like a fun movie. We're not focused. We don't have to worry about all the backstory. Maybe we'll get a little bit with the characters we haven't seen on screen yet, but we don't have to worry about that big, like, awkward story building, like like they suffered from in Batman vs Superman and all that. So I'm looking forward to this one, and I hope that with Joss Whedon, I from what I understand, he didn't necessarily. He did a lot of reshoots, but like he didn't necessarily change the basis of Zack Snyder's film, except for like some of the writing, which he's going to get a writer's credit for. But yeah, well, it's going to be, this is the first time I think that they've released two DC films in the year. So this is hopefully this is the beginning of something good. And with Justice League kicked off, we'll be able to jump into a new era of DC films that could actually be good.
Well, last year, actually, they released two films.
Oh, do they? No.
Suicide Squad and BVS.
There's so much time between Man of Steel and whatever came next, so it's just, whatever.
No worries. Yeah, definitely looking forward to Justice League to see how that all fits with all that's behind the scenes stuff going on. Suburbicon and Coco, Star Wars: The Last Jedi. There's so many others, and it all starts with it this weekend. Definitely looking to spark interest back again in people going back to the movies and getting that box office back to where people are used to seeing it, and definitely going to parlay that hopefully into a great fall movie season. What are your thoughts on the fall movie season? Are there any films out there that you're looking forward to that we didn't mention now, or also as well when Rob and I step in with our thoughts again coming up after the break? If you feel like you want to share your thoughts on a movie that we might have missed, please share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Pop Culture Cosmos, Humanican Media, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter. Well, it's going to be a great show indeed. We truly appreciate you being part of the broadcast here today. But before we get to Tyler Baker from the Fantasy Football Pater podcast, before we get to Rob McCallum as well, talking his fall movies, plus also as well the Star Wars episode 9 directorial change, it's our good friend Elijah Harrison, who we had a chance to talk to in regards to Destiny 2, which he probably is playing right now. It's Plasma Z, and this is Mango, and this is the PCC Multiverse. And okay, can't do that yet. Almost done. Hold on. Didn't do one thing. And we're back with the PCC Multiverse. My name is Gerald Glassford for Pop Culture Cosmos and Game Source. We truly appreciate you having listened to the show today. And I'll tell you what, as we close out the show, we just want to remind you again, check out all of our shows that are available on the Podcast Radio Network. It is the Pop Culture Cosmos show every Monday night, 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific, although this week the station had issues, so sorry about that. We also have Attack of the Mannequins that's available on 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on Tuesday, and of course this show every Friday night, 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on the Podcast Radio Network. But if you cannot get our show on the Podcast Radio Network or the Pop Culture Cosmos show, no problem. The Pop Culture Cosmos channel you can find on any one of these outlets: iTunes, TuneIn, the Ace Podcast Network, Overcast.fm, Player.fm, Google Play, Stitcher Radio, Podcast.com, Apple Podcasts, Mixcloud, the ESO Network, the Tangibound Network, the Gunny Geek Network, Cast Crunch, Social Podcasts, popculturecosmos.wordpress.com, and on the Game Source YouTube page, you will also be seeing uploads of the episodes as well, starting with the Pop Culture Cosmos episode 50. I can't do the entire one; it takes way too long.
Are we on Napster and LimeWire? Is that?
No, that we're getting there. We're getting there. But if it was back 10 years ago, we would have definitely been on there already. But we are going back to have our shows on the Game Source YouTube channel, starting with episode 50. So you'll be able to look back in the recent times and be able to go ahead and access podcasts as well there as well, and we'll be able to upload that for you as well. And that's including the bonus content for everything except for what plays live on the Podcast Radio Network. So Josh, as we close everything out this week, I want to ask you, did you get a chance to see the news in regards to the future of the 007 films?
Yeah, there's a lot of weird stuff going on with that right now. I'm excited that Pierce Brosnan? Daniel Craig is back.
He would probably still love the paycheck.
Yeah, he probably would, but he just was not okay, so this is the thing. Daniel Craig has really risen the standards for James Bond as far as like how the character's portrayed, what they do with them. Whereas Pierce Brosnan was good at the time because we were so used to that corny James Bond. But if you go back and watch them now after seeing Daniel Craig in the spot, it's kind of takes the tone out of the movie. It's hard to take seriously.
It did become more hard-edged with Daniel Craig. I will give you that. But it was for Roger Moore, looking at the fourth wall all the time, and Pierce Brosnan, his timing and his basically his on-screen charisma. I'm a big fan of Pierce Brosnan's. Obviously, Sean Connery, he exemplified the role as well. But I will give you props for saying that Daniel Craig is different in the way, because those movies are portrayed differently, correct?
Yeah, well, it's like going from Joel Schumacher's Batmans to Chris Nolan's Dark Knight trilogy. That's the comparison I want to make there.
Excellent analogy. That's actually an excellent analogy indeed. So I ask you, there's so many major players now vying for the future of the 007 films, which includes, these Sonys, the Warner Brothers, the Universals, all the major film companies, plus
Amazon
entities.
Right?
What?
Amazon was one of them too, right? They wanted to.
Amazon and Apple
Oh,
might be weighing in with some interesting little bids and offers so that the future of the 007 series may go to one of them. So I ask you, Josh, how interesting does that make it? And do you think ultimately it might land in the hands of someone different than a traditional film company?
the idea is cool, but I think it would be a pretty stupid move to do that because what experience does Apple have with movies? They don't really have, much, not hardly anything. And Amazon, they do make some pretty great films, but they're new at this whole game. So I think that at this conjuncture in time, giving James Bond to one of them is not a very great idea. But if I remember correctly, isn't James Bond one of the only films that kept Sony afloat during their hack?
Absolutely, because MGM had exclusive deal with Sony to distribute, and obviously Skyfall and Spectre came out within that realm, that time frame, and definitely has provided Sony with a great influx of cash. Even if Spectre didn't do quite the money that it did with Skyfall, it still almost gained $1 billion worldwide.
Right. So, look at it this way. Like, even every James Bond movie is going to do well, even if the reviews come out bad. Like, the reviews for Spectre weren't that good, and the reviews for Quantum of Solace weren't that good, but the movie still garnered a whole ton of money. So, fail or succeed, James Bond is going to make money forever does it. Now you just got to look at the point of view of what can each of these studios do for you. So look at, say James Bond goes to Universal. Well, suddenly all these doors have opened up. They have, as far as like merchandising and theme parks go and all that stuff. Like, all these doors are open for them. So I guess it depends on, Sony hasn't really done a lot for them. Without seeing like the opening little title for Sony, you wouldn't even know that they had anything to do with it. So it's right now it's just, I think that they're still in their renaissance period, and they need to go with whatever distributor is going to do the most for them.
Absolutely. I don't blame you a bit, but I'm telling you right now, don't underestimate Apple, because as far as a distribution platform with iTunes and whatnot, they do have that realm as far as the digital world and the digital realm. And they've had major properties before, not necessarily in the movie realm, but they've had a huge entity in the Beatles albums, and they had the Beatles collection, which I understand you can't, that's like apples and oranges, but they're still used to dealing and handling a large and very important property such as that. So I would say don't underestimate them, and also don't underestimate Amazon as well. I know their projects and their film projects are small, much smaller in scale than what Sony or Universal or what have you would end up doing. But I wouldn't underestimate Amazon throwing in a lot of cash, because while the getting's good, they may go ahead and get this large property indeed. Any last thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, I get what you're saying about Apple, but James Bond, like, they all eventually end up, in that realm of Apple anyways, going, because, Universal has stuff on iTunes, Sony has stuff on iTunes. So I guess they probably want to save a buck or do whatever, but I don't see it going to Amazon, but I guess Apple could be a real possibility. I wouldn't go with Sony again. Universal is looking good. I wouldn't rely too heavily on Fox. Is Disney vying for James Bond? Is that a company in the works?
I have not heard that, but don't be surprised. We didn't know about the Star Wars universe and Marvel universe going to Disney beforehand either, correct?
Correct. So, I mean, Disney's done some good things, but I feel like, James Bond is one of those franchises that kind of stands against the titan that is Disney. So, yeah, I'm gonna have to read more into it before I make any solid guesses, but I guess Apple wouldn't be too surprising.
But don't be surprised if you and I are going on that 007 ride at Disneyland at 2020. Okay, you heard it here first, because you live near Disneyland, and I can just jet down there in about 3 or 4 hours, and there you go. We can go and after we do the Guardians of the Galaxy ride, and after we go ahead on the Splash Mountain, we can go ahead. Hey, man, what about the chase from Chase from 007?
Yeah, I hear they're taking the submarine ride out and replacing it with the Austin Martin submarine. And then you just go there and fight Russians and stuff.
There you go, and you get to hold a Walter PPK as well. So that would be awesome indeed. Josh, before we head on out, what's going on with all the great things at Humanican Media?
Same stuff, man. Same stuff. No Super BS this week, but you can check out Inside Sports and Topicocalypse. Well, I'm gonna put some up this week, and I'm kind of falling behind. It's been a busy week, but there's definitely some stuff in the works. But yeah, for now, just check out Inside Sports. So we're recording a new What About This weekend, and tune in Tuesday for Attack of the Humanicans.
If your voice holds out.
Right, if my voice, it's barely holding out now. I'm like, I'm trying not to let it crack, because that would be just take me back to high school.
Indeed. If you have any thoughts on the 007 distribution rights and who you think should hold them, please share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Also as well, Humanican Media, Pop Culture Cosmos, and Game Source on Facebook and Twitter as well. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise here in the PCC Multiverse. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.